You're here because you want to create amazing 3D digital art, and specifically, you probably want to learn modeling and animation. That's why you're here. But you don't want to probably model or animate just anything. You want to be able to create things from your imagination. And whether you want to do spaceships or airplanes or boats or flowers or trees, you really want to tell some kind of story. And the best way to tell a story is with a character. Join me as you create your first furry, cute character in 2019. And don't think that the character has to be in a forest or has to be amongst trees and flowers. It can do whatever it is you want. Take a look at my furry, cute character as he drives down the street in his cool 64 Impala. Now, take a look at what we're going to create. Something very similar, furry and cute, just like I said. I can't wait to see what you create. Let's get started. So now we're going to make our cute character. We're going to start with the head. And let me just remind you, if you're wondering what I'm pressing, you can see it down here at any time. Down here on the left hand bottom corner. So to set this up, and remember, this is good for doing any kind of cute character, whether you're talking about a fox, a bear, a rabbit. The approach is pretty much the same. So I'm going to hit 1 to go into front view, 5 to get into orthographic view, and I'm going to kind of set it up. So we're doing the head, and the head is probably the most complicated part of it. Other than that, it's pretty simple. So I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit Control R to do loop cut. Then I'm going to hit escape so it stays in the center. I hit 1 to go back into front view. I'm going to make it so I can do the show the scene as transparent. So I'm going to click up here on the top right side. I hit Alt A to deselect all, B to box select, and now you can see that whole left side is selected. So I'll hit X to delete those vertices. Then I'm going to go over here to the modifier menu, and I'm going to add mirror modifier. So now you can see that it's on both sides. This way I only have to model one side. So to start, I'm going to do some more loop cuts. So let's Control R again. I hit enter, escape, Control R again, enter, escape to make sure that stays in the center. Now I'm going to add another modifier, and that modifier is subsurface. So this gives me this rounded look you see here, because ultimately we want the head to kind of be rounded. Now feel free to go on the internet and look up teddy bears or normal bears or whatever to give you some kind of reference. I'll also put a reference of the picture that I'm going to create, the render that I'm going to create, and you can use that as a reference if you want. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look from side view, and we're going to give this head some roundness. So I'm going to hit B for box select, G for grab, and I'm going to pull this up to give that part some roundness. Alt A to deselect that, and I'm going to hit B for box select again. I'm going to hit grab, and this time I'm going to hit Y to pull it straight back. Then I'm going to hit Alt A, and I'm going to just continue to move these around to give me the shape that I'm looking for. The next thing I'm going to do is pull out these bottom vertices just a little bit to give the face a little bit of the curve that it would normally have. Next, I'm going to make this a little bit less wide, because the bear's head, it's not that wide. Well, it's not that thick, I guess. It's hard to tell whether what you mean by a head is thick or wide, depending on the angle. But just going to down that just a little bit. And now you can see that the head is really flat on the sides, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to select these side ones. I'm going to look from the front. I'm going to say G and X. I'm going to pull it out just a little bit to make sure that it's not completely flat. And right now the shape of this is not too bad. So we're going to add some more geometry to it. So if you think about a bear a lot of times has kind of these jowls, like the cheek area, and we're just going to create that now. I'm going to grab G for grab and pull this out just a little bit, and I'm going to take this centerpiece here that's at the center of the head and pull that in just a little bit to make those jowls kind of give them some cheekiness. And then I'm going to add some more geometry to the top of the head. But you can see how this kind of made it square when we added that geometry. So we need to address that because there's no part of the head that's really square. So what we're going to do is just box select these up here. I'm going to rotate them a little bit just because I want it to be more in line with what the head is going to look like. I'm going to grab that and bring it in to make it a little bit more rounded. So now if you look at it, you can see that our head isn't so round. I mean, we have a little bit of flatness there, and we can take care of that as well by taking these center vertices that go along the side of the head, grab, hit X, and pull them out a little bit, and that will help address that little bit of squareness. So now you can see that we kind of have the head structure, but what we really need is the snout. So right now we have the front of the face, and just like we did before with the side of the head, we're going to add a little bit of geometry here by putting a loop cut in the center here. And once again, it made things just a little bit square. So we're going to take care of that squareness by creating some roundness in the shape. And we did that by just lowering that corner there. And you can see in the back of our head now, we also have this kind of flatness, and it's easy to deal with. We just take out some, so I'm B select. I'm doing the same thing basically over and over again. Oh, and you see that this is not connected. So the question is, why did that happen? Well, if you go over here to the right side, we're going to turn clipping on. Then if I hit G for grab and then X to move it, you can see it snap together. So typically when you're working in mirror mode and you want the edges to be like glued together, you want to turn that clipping on. But let's go back to making this a little bit more rounded. So I'm going to do box select again. You see that I got this loop there, and I'm just going to grab that and move it a bit to make it more round. Now I'm going to do the same thing to this one. So to select that like I did just there, I just held down the Alt key, and this allows you to loop select. So we'll look from above, I'm going to move it in, and now our head has some roundness. So if I hit tab, head is not looking bad at all. So the next thing I'm going to do, just to give us a better idea of how it's going to look in the future, I'm going to hit shade smooth. That just takes away that faceted sides that we had before. So now let's do the snout. In order to do this snout, the snout is like in this bottom area here. So we're going to go to face select mode. We're going to select where this snout would be, where it would kind of start from, and then I'm going to hit I for inset face. So this is kind of weird because it inset the face just into the right side of the face, and that's not quite what we want. But it is a really easy fix. All we're going to do is select this vertex here, hit X to delete vertex. Now you can see this face, but remember that we have clipping on. So if I say G for grab, X to grab it on the X and then move it to the center, it goes ahead and snaps in place. So you can kind of see the beginnings of what this snout is going to be. Now, right now, it's kind of wide. So I'm going to take these 3 vertices and move them inward. So I could say G for grab and then X to move it to the side, but you can see that it kind of goes into the model. So I'm going to show you a little trick here. If I want these vertices to move along the edges, I can hit G twice, and now they move along the edges and they don't actually move into the model. So I'm going to do that for both of these. So I'm going to hit G twice and then move it along the model. Now, if I select all of these vertices, just like this, I go to side view, I grab Y, pull them straight out, and now you can see that we're starting to have this snout. Now I'm going to loop cut this part here, and I can loop cut just around the snout because I created this loop here. So I can add as many loop cuts as I want in this area here, right around the mouth area. But for right now, That's all we need. And I want to create like more of a point at the face because this is a bear that I'm trying to create. If you were trying to do a turtle, it'd be more kind of snub nose, but for the bear, I'm just gonna pull this out a little bit more because I want it to be more like a bear's face. So I'm gonna grab Z, I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna grab, pull that. I'm gonna pull this up some more, grab, I'm just gonna pull it up. I'm not doing anything particularly precise here. I'm just kind of looking at it and trying to figure out what I want. So right now, there's kind of like a ridge right here, and that's not quite what I want. So I'm just gonna move this around. I'm gonna pick these three. I hit G twice, kind of move them back. I'm gonna do the same thing here. That'll kind of get rid of any ridges we have here. And I want to see the profile, and I see that the profile isn't quite what I want. So let's give it still more of kind of a point that we had before. More of a point than we have now anyway. So I'm just moving this around, and yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for. Now it's more pointed, but I think it could be a little bit more away from the face. So I hit C for circle select that time. And now I can pull this by hitting G for grab, R for rotate. And now everything is more of a circle, is more of a point. The other thing I want to do is really kind of round out this bottom because it's kind of square, as you can see. So I hit G for grab, Y, and as you're doing this with your model, it's completely up to you the general shape that you give it, right? It can look like whatever you want it to look. This is just generally what I'm doing, and I'm okay with this general shape. Now, I'm going to show you a trick here to get the mouth right. So in order to get the mouth, we need to open. So we need to do something called, I call it ripping. They call it too, it's called rip region. It's here on the left side. We're going to select it, select these two vertices, and we're just going to left click and drag down. And now you can see that we have a mouth. So it's really easy. It's a really easy way to create a mouth. But right now you can see that these two are overlapping. So I'm going to hit G, Z to move it up. I'm going to select those, G, Z to move it down. I'm going to select this vertex here, double G to kind of move it in so it's not so wide. Then I'm going to say G and then Z. Move it up a little bit, give him just a little bit of smile. Then I'm going to select the entirety of the lips. I'm going to hit E for extrude, and I'm going to hit Y to extrude it straight back. And now I want to close off the mouth. Actually, I'm going to hit G for grab, Y to pull it back a little bit more. And then I'm going to hit F, which makes it a face. So if I hit Tab to get out of edit mode and back into object mode, you can see what this kind of looks like here. The next thing I want to do is give it a little bit more ridge up here. So I hit Alt R to give it a loop select to kind of open that up. I'm going to do the same thing here for, sorry, not Alt R, Control R to kind of give it a little bit more space for this snout area. And if I wanted to make that higher, all I have to do now is select this top portion here and just grab Z, move it up, and that makes it a little bit thicker. So now we're going to give him a nose. So I'm going to say Shift A. We're going to add a UV sphere. And that UV sphere is huge and not where we want it. So we're going to hit Control Z to undo that. So let's say Shift S and we're gonna move the cursor to selected. So this moved the 3D cursor, which controls where things are kind of spawned and created. So we're gonna hit Shift A. Now, UV sphere, we're gonna go this part about UV sphere, and we're gonna take this 32 all the way down to 8 because we don't need all that detail. Take this to 8 as well. And now we're gonna say this is 0.1, so 1/10 the size of what it was when it was created. I'm gonna rotate it about the X 90 degrees. I'm gonna look from the side by hitting 3 on the numpad. I'm gonna move it right over that face. So now there is a little nose on our, what will be a bear, but for you, maybe it's something else, could be anything. Now, let's talk about the ears, because that's pretty much all we need to do now for the general shape of the head. So all I'm going to do is Control R. I'm going to add just a little bit more geometry here for the ears, and I'm generally okay with what the head looks like. Sometimes when you add that geometry, it takes away from the overall shape. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm still going to add a little bit more. I'm going to put a loop cut here. Once again, I'm for the most part okay with that, but there's a little bit of ridge here, like let's get rid of that. So I'm just going to actually pick this vertex and pull it in just a little bit to get rid of that ridge. I'm going to take these vertices here, I'm going to hit that double G again, move it just a little bit, and now this area here is where our ear is going to go. So I'm going to hit face select mode, hit these here, probably not that one, just these two, and actually why don't we hit all 4 of these. Now you're going to see why it doesn't matter a whole lot. I'm going to hit I for inset face, and now I have just this area here that's going to be where the ears are. So I can select this vertex, I'm going to hit double G so I can move it in because the ears aren't that wide. Hit double G there, and I'm just going to do that for this entire thing because I'm kind of creating the root for the ears. I'm just going to do that a little bit more. Now, if I go to face select mode, I select this vertices here. I say E for extrude. And now I kind of have these ears, but they're not quite the right shape. So I'm going to Control R, loop cut the ear region, and that put me in edge select mode, but that's okay. I can go back to vertex select mode by just selecting vertex select mode, and now I can shape these ears exactly as I want them. So I want mine to be relatively round. They're kind of Winnie the Pooh-ish. I feel like I'm getting like a Winnie the Pooh kind of vibe, and yours is fine. You could be doing a gummy bear kind of vibe for those of you who are old enough to remember what gummy bears are. I'm sure most of you probably know about Winnie the Pooh. I don't know. I'm a lot older than probably a lot of people that are watching, or maybe you're not from the United States and you have no idea what I'm talking about. If that's the case, completely disregard what I'm saying, and you know what? There you have it. It's a teddy bear's head. Now, the only difference between this and a rabbit and a fox is just slight differences in the ears and the nose and the mouth, but really it's this exact same approach. So there you got it. That's the head.